Good afternoon. It's my understanding that you have been told that I am not not Tony, essentially. That Tony, I don't know if anybody told you this, he says I can. Um, he can't find his COVID card. He thinks he lost it at the last airport. He can't get through security. He had to leave the run to the center and come back out, and he he can't find it, and he's screwed. And so he is, I don't know if he's stuck in customs. I'm not sure where he is, but he's not going to make it. And so here I am instead. He called me and he asked me to present. And a lot of what he was going to present to you is based on a presentation that he and I have done together before. So he kind of knows what I am going to talk about, and he was happy with that. A problem for me is that I didn't have credentials to get into the conference platform. So I am being zoomed in kind of in an ancillary way. You are going to see me turn to the side here and there because I cannot get my notes to show well between the two monitors because I can't see in the platform. So anyway, so that's all that's happening. So the presentation that I gave this morning was called "I'm Being Resilient Because the Only Other Choices Are Crap." And I stand by that statement 100%. Any other option is just not the good option. So who am I and why should you even care what I have to say, right? Like, why? Who is this woman and why is she here? My credentials show that I'm a counselor, but big deal. Why do you want to hear from a counselor, right? This was supposed to be a medical presentation, but it wasn't. It wasn't going to be. If you read the flyer, Tony wasn't going to give you some beautiful information on new treatment modalities or anything like that. This was about the psychosocial impact of cancer on your patients and how you can help to mitigate stress and anxiety and all of the stuff that goes along with it. So not only do I have a counseling degree, I'm a survivor. And in 2014, I had breast cancer. I had a double mastectomy. I had 4 rounds of AC chemo, Adriamycin, Cytoxan, and I had 16 sessions of Taxol. And I still struggle. I have a lot of neuropathy in my feet mostly. I have pain at the space where I had the lymph biopsies. I do not have lymphedema. Thank everyone that I could possibly thank for that. But life isn't beautiful. I have a little bit of lung and heart impact from the chemo. I have a very sensitive immune system now and a bit of a trigger toward autoimmune stuff. I was ill in September and it's still kicking my butt. I got tonsillitis, and because the hospital system was overwhelmed, I waited on a gurney for 10 hours to get 40 milligrams of prednisone and almost completely lost my airway and needed to have a tube run. And it was a disaster, and it's still impacting me. And so I'm having infusions monthly to try and boost my immune system. So I know about this firsthand. I am a counselor, so I have that bit of a background, and I am a patient. So Tony has asked me repeatedly to present with him. He thinks that I give a good insight. I do on occasion speak to first and second year med students. I'm from Michigan and in the United States, and I talk with them. Although I don't really talk to Michigan students as often as I talk to students in Texas, which is weird. But those are some of the best sessions that I have. You know, I like talking to patients, and I like being part of that group too. But a lot of the conversations that I have that are most impactful, I think, come from the first and second year med students because they're asking questions, especially the younger ones, about how they can be more impactful with their interpersonal relationships with their patients. So I really enjoy those. So I know a lot about resilience because I've had to. My childhood was beautiful. My parents were lovely humans. And as far as I knew, life was all like flowers and puppies. As an adult, I found out it wasn't. There was a major, financial catastrophe in their world. I didn't know anything about it. I was a little kid. They protected me. But my adult life hasn't been so beautiful. Everybody pretty much died because people do that, right? But So I've had a lot of loss. My daughter is 11 now, but her father died when she was 6. Actually, today is April 1st, and today is the day he died. It's the 5-year anniversary of his death, and so that kind of is a bummer. The child is has a bunch of anxiety and anger issues because of that, mixed with being a tween. And she's neurodivergent, so some of the strategies and coping mechanisms that I can help her with aren't really as effective as they might be otherwise. So I have had to be resilient in that regard, and being, a widowed single mom, and then also being a cancer survivor. So I think that I am qualified to talk about this topic a bit. Something that I want people to remember is that resilience is not innate, it's learned. Babies, this is my daughter, don't tell her I use this picture. Babies are not resilient. Toddlers are not resilient. They spend a lot of time frustrated and angry and unable to regulate their emotions. It's a learned behavior, and some people are better at it than others. Some people have had more practice at it than others. But just keep in mind that not everybody that you encounter is going to be able to bounce back immediately in the way, that perhaps your last patient did or your last client did. All the therapists on the call and anybody in the social work field knows about Ginsberg's 5 Cs, right? I want to talk a little bit about them and how they pertain to resilience and what we're looking at today. I also want to stress that I don't think that you should just present these as here, like the 7 or the stages of death and dying, right? Like that, just handing that to someone, not helpful at all. And just telling somebody about these isn't going to be helpful. I work with people with disabilities in my day gig, and they talk a lot about feeling less than in situations, and that they're overwhelmed by the way that people think that they should behave and the expectations that people have for them, good and bad. And I feel like this is the same idea, right? Presented in the wrong way, this could be extremely overwhelming. The components here are all true, but they're not linear, and they're not even definable in some situations, in some cases. But I will go through and give like a brief definition of what I think they mean, and what I think Ginsberg meant when they were put together. Competence, clearly having the ability to handle and deal with stressful situations effectively. You would need here the skills to face challenges and the opportunity to use those skills, because competence comes with practice and repetitiveness. I think confidence is predicated on competence, right? You're confident in your abilities to deal with something means you're confident, right? So you are confident in your competence. Connection is important, whether that be with other people and things in the community, whether it be to a faith or religion, whether it be to your medical team, all of that. Character, a sense of self-worth and confidence, contribution. And I think contribution here in our context and what we're talking about today talks about your contribution into your treatment plan, your contribution into all of the things that come around and are significant for you. Coping, there's not just one coping mechanism or modality. There is, a repertoire of coping mechanisms and things that people use. Control is the big one. It's the one you're going to hear me talk about the most. Being in control as best one can of their situation as it pertains to their treatment and their situation is integral in in being resilient, right? When you get thrust into a cancer situation, you pretty much have no control over that. I don't know one person who was like, hey, I should get some cancer. And so control becomes a big deal in spaces where you can't be control in spaces that aren't controllable, I guess is what I wanted to say. There's more than that. It's not just the C's. I think the C's are great, and I get the idea of the having that learning mechanism there, but there's a little more to it than that. And I feel like, as cheesy as this sounds, gratitude is a big thing too. And again, I don't know somebody who was like, whoa, I'm glad I got cancer, because if I wouldn't have had cancer, what could have happened? But Harvard just did this amazing study, and you may or may not have seen it, where they talk about the impact of gratitude on health, on brain function, on the ability to heal. It's numerous what comes out of that study. If you haven't seen it, check it out. I'm not going to read it today. Tony had more of that in his presentation, I know, but he couldn't get a good enough Wi-Fi connection to shoot me the slides. But I do have a story about gratitude, and I told Tony that I was going to talk about this. I recall sitting in the waiting area, waiting for an appointment. And there was a man there waiting too, and they were running a little bit behind. Stuff happens, right? It's chemo, it's cancer, right? Like, maybe they just told somebody that there was no more treatment options for them. That might take a little bit longer than they anticipated before, right? And this guy was just pissed, just belligerent, just angry, just so upset. And I get it, right? Like, nobody wants to be there. Nobody wants to feel that way. And I remember, you have to talk to a social worker when you're there. And she was asking me, I said I didn't want to do it. I said I didn't want to talk to her. That sounds mean. It sounds awful. I have a therapy degree. I know, like, the tricks and the things and the stuff, right? And if I want to talk to somebody, I'm going to reach out to one of my friends, right? If I'm going to die, I didn't want to be in there doing that. And so anyway, we were chatting. We should just see if she was going to sign off and let me go. And I just said, I am so grateful that I am not that angry, that I'm not as angry as that man out there is, that I have support and people in my space that helped me to not be that bitter and angry. And I said, and that's unfortunate. And she said, so you don't think you need to see me? And I told her, no, if I'm going to die, the last thing I want to do is spend my time here talking to you. I want to do something fun. Like, fair enough. She signed off and I didn't have to stay. But just a little bit of a change in attitude makes a big difference. And it makes a big difference on everyone around you too, right? Because you could see just everybody look at him, and everybody was thinking, shut up. No one needs to hear this, right? He was going through some stuff. And and just, if he could have just twisted that and been thankful that the caregivers are willing to take a little bit of extra time with someone when they need it. And if you needed that extra care too, they would take it with you. So anyway, that's my story about gratitude, or lack thereof. Mindfulness. And I don't mean you have to light candles and smell the sage, although if that works for you, knock yourself out, whatever your thing is. But by mindfulness, I mean, and this is part of my presentation this morning too, I mean embracing the suck. Because it sucks. It really sucks. It sucks that you have cancer. It sucks that I had cancer. It sucks. Cancer sucks. Treatment sucks. A double mastectomy sucks, right? Radiation sucks. Just knowing that this sucks, and knowing that it's okay to think that it sucks is okay. I still had to work during my chemo because Veronica's father was a musician. And so, like, money I needed. I was just out of grad school, long-term disability. I would have been almost done. Actually, I would have been done. My chemo started in August, and I was done on New Year's Eve on December 31st. And so, I didn't have short-term disability, blah, blah. I had to work. And it sucked, right? It was awful. But just knowing like this is bad. And I hate that I have to do this, but I have to do this. And so it can still suck, but it can still get done, right? Like just knowing that is something that I think helps. It creates a shift in how the patient is able to continue on and to see things. And I hate the word proactive. I don't, all those buzz catchphrases, right? Be proactive we're in the weeds talking about this. We need a robust. I don't like those. But proactive here doesn't mean avoiding in the first place, but being able to face things head on and look for solutions. And sometimes, there is no action that you can take. You cannot be active or have control because this is like the only treatment modality for this, or this is a surgery that is needed. And you don't have any control over surgery dates and all that, but just having information and making sure that your patient is as informed as they possibly can be can make all the difference and then feeling, again, back to the word control, feeling like they're in control or have a little bit of control over their situation. Something that I think we don't talk about enough is the neural fatigue that comes with diagnoses. It's overwhelming, and your brain is running 100 miles a minute, and what about this? Oh, I need a trust. I need a power of attorney. I need a medical guardian. I need to do this. I need to do that. I need to get this in order. I need to do that in order. The house isn't clean. What people are going to come over? What am I going to do? We need to get food lined up before my surgery. All of those things. And so, being proactive in those ways is great, but you also need to be sure to protect some downtime. I didn't put an image in here because downtime looks different to everybody, right? Like reading, spa day, mani-pedi, whatever it might be, doom scrolling, Insta, looking for something shiny to help you feel better. The point is just to set aside some time to recharge, not only recharge the body, but also the mind, right? That neural fatigue is real. I don't know how everybody else's cancer center is, but where I got my chemo, the recliners like faced one another, right? They were in a semicircle, and so the nurses could run back and forth and do their gig. I've seen other ones where there are nice walls in between where it's a little more private, whatever. And I didn't always love that somebody was looking at me while I was getting pumped full of chemicals, or when my port, I have a tattoo on my port scar now, but my port wasn't working. But I remember a woman talking to me about this. She was talking to me about downtime and that her life didn't allow for like a full block of like an hour to relax in the way that it had before she had started her treatment. So instead she would take 4 like little 15-minute blocks to just breathe and relax, to, get a glass of water and just sit by herself. And that I thought was good advice for patients. I saw a meme the other day talking about moms and getting alone time. And the mom was like, oh, my alone time today is that I get to poop all by myself with no one else coming into the room, or I get to drive to the grocery store all by myself. Well, that's not what I mean by that. We mean a total sense of downtime where your brain and your mind can regenerate. And that can help with a mindset shift. And by mindset shift, I don't mean, woo, I got cancer. That's great. That's just silly. But mine was like, shit, I have cancer. This is bad. This cancer killed my mom. I've got a little kid. Ugh, what am I going to do? How can I make this suck less? That was my mindset shift, right? Once I started to think, yep, this is going to suck, but how can it suck less? Then everything kind of changed in my world. And so I just showed you my port scar, right? My port scar is way up here in the corner because I still had a bunch of stitches in my torso on the day I went to get my port, and he couldn't put it where he was supposed to put it. So that was crazy and weird and off to the side. And I was really mad about it at first. And then I just had to think, well, it is what it is. And I just have to deal with it. One thing, do not let people say to your patients, everything happens for a reason. No one wants to hear that. No one wants to hear that they got cancer for a reason other than like crappy genetics or some biological disaster, right? It's not some cosmic punishment. No one wants to hear that. It's relationships. So this is my daughter, and I during my chemo, I had my chemo first and my surgery second. I know other people have done it another way, but that's just how mine went. And so this is me during chemo. And I thought it was a good picture to show relationships. And so my community saved me. There's no way that I could have done this alone. There's no way that I could continue to raise this kiddo as a single widowed mom. I have some side effects. So from the chemo, I've got a lot of neuropathy. I have some heart and lung impact, not much. I'm okay, kind of ish. I got my booster number 4 for COVID today because I am 50 now, but I have side effects. But that's not something that everybody has, right? That you watch your patients, find out who their circle of support is. And if they don't have a good circle, get them in with a social worker right away so they can help to build that circle. If it's not an organic circle that they have already in their life, then direct support people can come in and help with that because it's ridiculously important. Flexibility is important too. We talk about things changing. So my port, I showed you how my port is way over here, right? Well, it was supposed to be over here, and I panicked, right? It wasn't what I expected. It wasn't what I thought it would be. I'm a huge control freak, a big dom, right? Like I need to know what's happening and what's going on. But there, boom, here, your port's in your shoulder. You need to be flexible. That's not really easy for a lot of people. It wasn't easy for me. It was one of the hardest things, I think, for me was to know that, I think that things are going to go one way, but I would get in and my port wouldn't draw. My port always took, it wouldn't always draw. So that was stressful, right? There were all these things, things that weren't exactly how they were supposed to go. And so flexibility, especially when you're depending on others, it's really hard to be flexible. So just watch for that, kind of talk about it. If you can make a note, things that you notice in the room are going to be really helpful as they go and see their social worker or case manager or nurse navigator, whatever everybody calls them. I know Tony is really big on me when we do our back and forth together about pointing out things that I think are important for you to watch for. Not that you can change them, but that you can alert the support staff and the counseling staff to things like that. Those are kind of key. A present vision is something that your patients need to know about too. Like you can talk to them all you want about what happens later and about planning for this, planning for that, planning for this. That's great. But what they need to focus on is what's happening right now. Again, it's that control, right? Because that's all you can do, right? Sometimes, some days, it's all you can do to get from this minute to the next minute. For me, the worst part of it all was the Neulasta. While it saved me, it really made me want to chop my own legs off, right? It was really painful. And so thinking about, okay, I'm going to go get the Neulasta shot. It's Tuesday. Great. The shot itself, no big deal, right? And then I'm going to do my thing today and tomorrow. And then Thursday, I'm going to get my stuff done in the morning. And then I'm going to sit in this chair. And that's all I can do to sit in this chair and get through this day. And here I am. I'm in this day. And it's not good and things are great, but here I am. And then it's not always going to be like this, right? It's not always going to be bad. I'm going to move on till tomorrow, but just focusing on what's happening in the present. People, the uncertainty of not knowing I don't know if I'm going to be okay. I was stage 2, grade 1. I could still die, right? It could come back and kill me. I won't know until it's metsed, right? Triple neg, you go by symptom. I won't know until I'm already on my way to being dead. That's not a helpful thought, right? But today, my daughter's having a sleepover, and I've got this thing happening, and I've got to order pizza for them, and the cupcakes are made, and those are the things that help me to get through without having an absolute panic and anxiety attack, because nothing is for certain. And you can tell the story about you could walk off the cliff, and you could get hit by a bus tomorrow. That's not helpful, right? Right? No one knows. But a cancer patient feels more like they don't know. And that brings me to the next information about life isn't fair in our society, especially I think more in Western society. Fair is this concept, there's equality and equity and fairness, and everything's supposed to be fair, right? If you get a blue balloon, I can have a blue balloon. Yeah, that's not how biology and science and medicine and the body works, right? Fair is a created concept for social things. Fair doesn't apply in science. So once people stop thinking in those terms, I think the better they do. Life isn't fair. It's not fair that one person gets cancer and someone else doesn't. It's not fair that someone carries the BRCA gene and someone doesn't. It's not fair that I don't carry the BRCA genes or the other new genome or any of that, but I still have the same cancer that killed my mom. It's not fair that my daughter has to worry about this. It's not fair, right? It's not fair that Veronica's dad died when she was 6. It's not fair that I'm busting my ass to take care of this house. Nothing is fair. It just is. You're going to see your patients look at you. Tony does this way better than I do, but he talks about a client, a patient who got pissed at him for being a doctor because he didn't get to be a doctor. And he, it's this story that Tony tells about how awful that was, and how the person was absolutely consumed in this idea of fairness and not fairness. So he says that in his patient load, he can see when this is a big concept for people, and he'll immediately alert the social worker or the support worker to that, so they know, and then they can try to deal with that and address that. They've got that skill set, that counseling skill set. So you don't have to know how to fix it. You just have to know how to identify it and then refer them on. Back to control again, right? Everybody wants to be in control of their lives. You need to be in control of what you can. This is something that I tell the patients when I do the patient part. You're not going to be in control of a lot during your journey. Something I really tell the new patients, right? You're not. The medicines are pre-chosen for you pretty much based on your diagnosis and your information. The time when you can go to get chemo is kind of picked. There's not a lot. I was going to lose my hair. They told me I was going to lose my hair. And I thought, well, I will be damned if I'm going to watch it fall down the drain. I am going to get it shaved off. So I had a party. My friend is the hairstylist, and she's a lovely human being. And she opened up her salon after hours, and we went and we had a Renee's losing her hair party. And we shaved my head, and my daughter got to help and have some control over that. And we actually just watched the video again the other day, and she watched a little tiny her. You could see the anxiety in her when my hair was falling down. She kept picking it up off the floor, right? It was a big deal. But that was control for me. I thought I looked okay bald. I have a little tiny head. But that was something I could control because I couldn't control the rest of it. And so I could control that. So I did that. And that is a strategy that your support staff will know. They'll be able to give that information to clients, and they'll be able to talk through it in depth about, well, so you can't control I don't know, you can't control like the date of the week that you have chemo, but you can control X or you can control Y. Like they'll give help them identify alternates and strategies and all of that. So watch for that too. If you feel like you see them in that space where they're having a lot of issues because they don't have control, alert your staff and they'll help in that regard. So in regard to resilience, again, resilience is born out of necessity. We would be a miserable lot if we weren't resilient, at least to some degree. I have a book, I haven't read it yet. It's called Grit. And someone today said in the morning session said it was amazing and it changed her life. And so I'm going to yank it off the shelf and dust it off and give it a look. And it's all about resilience. Resilience is learned. It doesn't mean things don't suck or that you're fine with everything. It just means that you're willing to take what is there and work with it and figure out how to deal with it. Some people are more resilient than others, but it's your job to help them get referred to a place where they can get a set of strategies and tools that can help them with that. And the therapists, the nurse case managers, the nurse navigators, whatever it is that your system and your hospital calls them, they have that skill set to help those patients do that. Not everybody sees those people. So but you can tell, in your conversations, how you doing? What about this? What about that? You can get a good feel for if somebody needs some more support or not. Tony and I talk about this, and we really suggest that as physicians, you will err on the side of caution in your referrals. I know that an HMO gives you a hard time for spending money. I know that happens, but a lot of the work that those support people do are they're done under grant funds, they're done under study money, they're done under different spaces. So never ever hesitate to make that referral, because it could make all the difference in a successful outcome for you or not. Once you look at that Harvard study, you'll see what I'm talking about. There were some studies about hopelessness and hopefulness and the difference between some outcomes for cancers and other critical illness that had the same medical markers, and the difference in the outcomes just based on a more positive mindset and the ability to get proper support and service in that way. So I know I rambled on a lot. My presentation is usually for patients. Tony and I kind of go back and forth where he talks about a medical modality or an issue, and then I give a patient side story. But I don't even have my name spelled right on the slide. I put this together so quickly. My name has 2 E's in it, and that's a number 1. That's funny. On a dating app, I would be mad if someone spelled my name wrong. I'd be like, my name was right there. Anyway, so you've got my information. It'll come out in the packet. The recording will come to you later. Tony and I are going to send along a session we've done before together. I was actually going to sit in with him on this session in tomorrow's show, and I still will. I don't think you're signed up for that, though. You wouldn't have signed up for his session twice. So we'll record tomorrow's and we'll get that to you as well. If you have any questions or comments, email them to me. You've got my email right here. I'm getting flagged and chatted and noted that we don't have time for questions now because I was so late getting started, because we still thought Tony was going to be able to Zoom in. So my apologies for that. And good luck. You do amazing work. I will be forever grateful to my team and all that they have done for me. So even though sometimes when we're in the office, your patients might seem less than grateful, just know that they are. They do appreciate you. Thanks. Take care.